This conference will now be recorded.
So hi everybody, if you have questions, go ahead.
Francis,
Yes?
I have no picture of you. I have view active camera, but it's just a blank screen.
Try to
there you are.
restart. Yeah.
I see you.
Yeah, I wanted first to say that there is a change Sunday dialogue, this coming Sunday. It's only for that Sunday, then we go back to the normal schedule, but exceptionally, the dialogue will be at 5:30 p.m. Los Angeles time. So I apologize to our friends in Europe because it's very late in the night. So if you have questions, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question, Francis.
Go ahead, George.
So I found out yesterday, I was reading a book and they mentioned Bayesian theory or Bayesian inference. And so I looked into that and it was pretty interesting because I was sort of looking at it with a mind to this. I used this as the, this exploration as the sort of example when I was looking at the model, and it seemed to be quite interesting because as you know, it's about
so are we talking about quantum mechanics and the Bayesian interpretation of quantum mechanics?
Oh no, I'm not that far ahead. I'm literally like the basic,
Okay.
Just literally the probability theory in the most basic form. And yeah, and this isn't really my field, so I'm basically out of my depth even at the most basic level. But basically, it looked pretty interesting because it seemed to be about understanding belief, and it was looking about what's a belief and how sure can we be of a belief. Am I on the right track to start with?
Well, I think we are. I don't think that this type of can you. I mean, I don't mind going into Bayes theorem and the Bayesian view of probability theory, but it's something which is so distant from the subject matter that we are interested in here. So if you could perhaps formulate your question in more general terms without any reference to probabilities.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I'll try and do that. So basically, it was okay. So what I felt, having looked at it, was that it, basically, yeah, and it's been I suppose it's what you've been saying in many other ways, which is it's not really about necessarily believing a new thing. It's about debunking old beliefs, and then that leaves us in not knowing. So, and it seemed to me that that's what the way I was seeing it. It just seemed to me that's what that was saying in its own way, sort of confirming it in a model form, and that was quite exciting just in its own right, because I've obviously heard you say this and many times. So for that was kind of clear, but then the second part that it led me on to think was, in that case, because quite often we talk about the rightness or wrongness of idealism or realism, and it just made me think, is it possible that in fact both of those models, whether the rightness or wrongness of them isn't really the main issue, it's more the fact that they are trying to justify a position, basically a new belief in either case, and that's the problem.
If you say yes, if you take one of those positions, you believe you know something, but in fact this something is just a belief.
Yes.
There is no, it is not justified experientially.
Yeah.
So therefore, Occam's razor in this case applies, because Occam's razor says, why hold to a belief which the truth of which I have no evidence for?
Yeah.
And besides, everything we know about reality phenomenally, we know it through such a small window, which is our human instrument, if you will, that as a result of the narrow scope of this instrument, everything we know, we have to take it with a grain of salt.
Yes. Exactly. And so the sort of question of realism or idealism, and then trying to link them up and trying to sort of play with those, isn't necessarily, well, it's sort of never going to be fruitful, because it's basically only a model, and it'll only
Yes,
ever be
yeah, but what is very fruitful, on the other hand, is to liberate ourselves
yes,
from either of those beliefs.
yes,
And yes, so to liberate ourselves from realism, but also to liberate ourselves from idealism, and this applies to a lot of Advaitic teachings that implicitly assume the idealist position.
yes,
It's a clarification, which is important.
absolutely.
At least it's important for those who are intellectually demanding. It's not the case of everybody. So those for whom it's not an issue, it doesn't matter. Because
Yes.
they have a model according to which everything is one thing. And then this, for all practical purposes, this model works for them. In the same way, the other model, the realist model, works very well for one who is consistently realist. For the consistent realist, there is only one reality, you see? And therefore, the reality that perceives awareness is this one reality. Whereas the problem with most realists is that they are not thoroughly consistent, because they make a distinction between the reality that perceives, that they attribute to this human instrument, and the reality of all things. They call it nature or whatever. That's an inconsistency among realists, which is very, very widely spread, and of course, which is a form of dualism. And that's a problem, because they are dualists. A consistent realist or a consistent idealist, if at the same time they are non-dualists, they are on the right path. If they are dualists, of course, on one hand you have reincarnation, on the other hand you have awareness being an emergent property of the body. These are two extreme opposites of dualism.
So I'm just realizing in asking the question, I'm sort of asking why did I ask this question? What was I trying to get at in the heart? And I'm realizing it's got something to do with not adding to beliefs, because I read quite a lot of things just for fun, but inevitably in that, when I see an idea that's sort of aligned with this understanding, I get excited and I feel glad to see it. But is there a risk that that could be sort of, you know, increasing belief? It could be cementing some.
I don't think as we investigate that we can increase belief. You know, there is a kind of, I would say it's a little bit as the opposite of the thermodynamics second principle, you know, about increased entropy. When we investigate truth, untruth disappears.
Yeah.
Gradually. So the investigations can only increase can only take us closer to truth. But it is a simplification process. It is not an addition process.
Yes. Okay, so it's not an addition process. I mean, when you say investigate,
It's true in all fields, in the fields of science, because in fact, there is only one science, which is physics, right? In the field of science, the physics is a mother of all science. All science depends on physics. That's why all sciences ultimately are branches or limbs branching out of the common trunk of physics. So when you I don't know what I was going to say. It's not important. Go ahead.
No, you were going to say about simplifying it.
Yeah. Even in physics, the real progress in physics, although the equations may become more complicated, is a process of simplification. It's a convergence with some form of oneness in the models. For the eyes of a lay person, it seems I don't know, general relativity seemed to be more complicated than Newtonian mechanics, but that's on the surface. In fact, it unifies and simplifies.
Yes. That's definitely, it's definitely a good sign. If it's getting more simple, then you're in the right direction. But what about in this case where I'm kind of going off into other fields that, you know, that aren't really, you know, it just, I don't know, just reading around the subject, is that secondary knowledge and therefore not very useful and not very,
It's secondary knowledge as long as you try to memorize what is said and you make a belief out of it. That's the very wrong way to go about it. But the moment you understand it, it becomes first-hand knowledge. It becomes your knowledge. It's like someone who tries to, taking the analogy of, let's say, mathematics, you know, who would read a subject of mathematics and wouldn't understand the proof and the basic concepts, would just memorize definitions, theorems, proofs of theorems without understanding them. It would be like there is a textbook on, I don't know, about calculus or whatever, and the guy memorizes the textbook like a parrot without understanding anything in it. And then on the other extreme is the one who understands everything and then doesn't need the textbook at all. The textbook has become his own understanding and then has become her own understanding. And then there is no need, in fact, for memory because they know that They can prove any proposition in the book. So it's the same here. Memorization and beliefs are an additive process. And in this case, understanding is a subtractive process, if you will. As we gain more understanding, we need less knowledge because we need less stuff from memory. And at the end, we know nothing. And we are that which we know. And we are that which knows. So it's a different form of knowledge. It's being knowledge rather than knowing through representation instead of knowing the real thing. The difference between knowing the map and being in the landscape.
Exactly. This is where my question sort of grounding around. It's the kind of the map.
Yeah, it's hard to take a holiday on a map on Hawaii.
Exactly.
It's not very enjoyable.
So the question is that it's exactly that. It's basically okay. Then the question is like, in what sort of, when is reading the map? That's not a very good question actually, but it's basically around that.
Yeah,
when is it a good idea to do?
The only function of the map is to take you there. Where is the beach? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's something else in there though, because it seems that is there some use in telling other people or like sharing it with other people or whatever, like that seems to be a secondary purpose. Is that something that's not even worth thinking about?
Yeah, because when we talk about it, the words are like the maps. But the words take us to the understanding, and the understanding is like diving in the ocean.
Yes.
Hello, Francis.
Hi, Lauren.
This is kind of a devil's advocate question. When you talk about solipsism and how it doesn't make sense that to say that there aren't other minds, that makes sense to me intuitively, but just by reason, I have a question. I mean, when you're dreaming, you interact with what you think are other minds. And I mean, obviously you kind of do it because it's fun and interesting, but you always say you reject solipsism because why would I be talking to you if I was a solipsist? Can you see my little problem with that there?
Well, the difference is that the solipsist claims claims that there are no other minds. Okay? Whereas in your dream, you don't claim that there are other minds, as evidenced by the fact that you talk to other minds, that you believe in the dream that there are other minds, right?
Right.
So, because if in the dream you would claim that there are other minds, that there are no other minds, at that moment, you would stop talking to them. You would realize that there is a projection of your own mind, in which case you would wake up because you would realize I'm dreaming.
Oh, okay. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Right?
Okay.
So therefore, you cannot say that you have to choose. Either you claim to be a solipsist, you claim
Okay.
that I am a solipsist because I have evidence for that, or you say, well, I don't know. If you claim I am a solipsist, I have evidence, I believe that there are no other minds, that there is only my mind, then everybody around you can see how stupid you are. But you have the advantage is that you are still, you cannot prove yourself wrong.
Okay, I see. So once,
But the fact that you cannot prove yourself wrong doesn't imply that you can prove yourself true.
okay.
You see, the solipsist believes that there are no other minds, but he has no evidence that it is not the case, that there are other minds.
Right. And in the dream,
So he chose a position without evidence supporting this position.
okay, that's clear. I understand. I have one other.
And
Oh,
regarding, let me
I'm
finish.
sorry.
Let me finish because it's important, and it's important to go in details into the. Whereas the correct position is not to take position. Between solipsism, idealism, realism. Why take position? Provided we understand that there is only one reality for all practical purposes, as far as we are concerned, there is no difference. That matters to be understood, and that is the real satisfactory position, which is not to take position.
To be comfortable not knowing.
Because these are models, solipsis, idealism, realism are models. They are imaginations of the human mind. Whereas we have a direct experience of reality. We know for certain there is something rather than nothing. We know for certain there is awareness. No matter how we dance around that, we know something that I am, of course, expressing through words and concepts. But these words and concepts, they point to an experience right now. There is something rather than nothing as I speak. And right now, as I speak, there is awareness. That is beyond the shadow of a doubt. That is a 100% certainty. That is the only 100% certainty we can ever have.
Okay. Sort of similar along these lines. Again, I kind of understand it at just a gut level, but if you're a vegetarian, you seem to be putting a specialness on animals as sentient beings, which I mean, I understand. I love my dog and I love animals, but how does that work in non-duality to kind of have the special nature of sentient beings, but then also to kind of not have the idea of objects?
It's not different from why don't we kill each other, or why don't we
I,
why don't we eat each other?
I wonder.
And then the answer to this is this ability we have, this mysterious ability called empathy. And which is the experience, not only that we are all in the same boat, but that we are the same boat. And the fact that we are the same boat, that we are the same reality, leads to actions, decisions that are either consistent with this understanding that there is only one reality, or which are not consistent with it. So the actions and decisions and thoughts and perceptions that are consistent with our deep understanding that there is only one reality would be the ones that I call intelligent, aesthetic, and ethical. Depending on the type of thoughts, perceptions, actions, decision, it will take more of a color of intelligent, or more of a color of ethical, more of a color of beautiful, but roughly speaking, that's what it is about.
Thank you.
In other words, what is an ethical action cannot be put in a nutshell. For instance, I cannot put in a nutshell, eating meat is wrong, any more than I can put in a nutshell, killing human beings to use their flesh as a meat, as a way to fuel the body is wrong. So empathy has irrational aspects. Love is not rational, you see? But love is the experience that you and I are the same boat. And this love, you can have it for a dog, for a cat. You can have it for a mouse, a little mouse that gets trapped in your trap because you don't want them in your house. But you don't want them to kill them either, so you release them in your backyard. And it can be also for the little animal that is about to get drowned in your toilet.
All right. Well, I'll stop. I'll stop eating people, and that was a very helpful very helpful to me. Thank you.
Hi, Francis.
I see, Sonia.
I have a question regarding the feeling of separation in the body and somehow physical exercise. So the feeling that I am separate, it feels in the body like a sensation. Sometimes when this feeling is present, first of all, I need to get out of my computer, so not work, and I can't really engage in a happy way like that. So I want to do something that I would in that moment be interested in doing. So what I would do is I would go for a run because I can't play tennis now. So I would go for a run, and after I just let myself go. I just try to enjoy the run as much as possible. It does feel in the body that it's when the feeling of separation is there, the body feels more heavy, I feel. But I try to enjoy the run as much as possible. And then after that, there is a 15-20 minutes walk from the place that I run to the house where I live. And I just listen to some words about the truth. And I let myself go to understand what exactly I understand in that moment. And something happens after a while. I don't remember when it happens, but I guess what I want to say is that I feel there's a connection between how the body is feeling, or how the sense of separation in the body is manifesting, and the being just open to the truth in a way. I just wanted to ask you if you have any comments on this. And yeah, I guess we're all different, but yeah. And the thing is that I know that you say that there is a difference, like when the body feels good, when you do physical exercise. I understand that's not what I'm after, but for some reason I feel that I feel life is more enjoyable after that, and the mixture of physical exercise and being in
I think you're mixing two things, because you know, I could see it myself if I play with a good player, and if I play 1 hour, and for 30 minutes we just play only, you know, backhand, and then just forehands, and then for half an hour we open the court and we kind of play points, and that's exhausting. And then, like half an hour after, the body feels well, because you are a lot of hormones that are triggered by the exercise, and because it's a high intensity exercise for 30 minutes with aerobic for 30 minutes before, you generate a lot of endorphins hormones, and it makes you feel good, but that's still an object, just as the body after a good night's sleep feels different from the body after a not so good night's sleep. These are two states, different states of the body, but they are not really where happiness is. That's a difference between eating a very good dish and eating some stuffed sheep stomach in Shropshire. These are phenomenal distinctions, so you cannot mix them up. Perhaps, yes, the fact that you ran distracts your attention from these feelings that were unpleasant, and the unpleasantness is replaced with the pleasantness of a body which has exercised. And then the fact that the unpleasantness has been temporarily forgotten gives you a more empty slate to enjoy thinking about the truth. But the enjoyment of the truth is very different from the enjoyment which is brought about by a pleasant condition of the body. Because the happiness of the truth is pure because it is a joy which is not dependent on any condition of the body or of the mind. It's unrelated to anything. Just the pure joy of being aware. And actually, the reason I corrected myself when I replaced the joy of being with the joy of being aware is because often when we use the word being, we unknowingly, implicitly, subliminally refer to state of the body. We identify being with being a body, or we identify being with perceiving a body, instead of identifying being with just perceiving. You see?
Yeah.
So the joy of perceiving a body will be dependent upon the state of the body. It will be there if the body is in a good condition. It won't be there if the body is in a different condition. Whereas the joy of perceiving is always there, behind and beyond anything and independent from anything which is perceived. So it is the true joy or the true peace which we discover by understanding that all other forms of happiness are simply the perception of this pure happiness through the colored window or the colored glass of bodily sensations, thoughts, or external perceptions.
Yes, I understand that. Mm.
And I'm not saying not to run, on the contrary, I do it too. So, I mean,
Yeah, but
I
I was
run
thinking,
like a dog after the little yellow ball, but
yes, that's true. I miss tennis. I don't enjoy running, to be honest, but I feel that my body, because I used to be very active
oh, yeah.
before, I feel I need to do something. So there's that. Yeah, because I was thinking to myself that, but what if I would grow old and I can't really do much physical exercise because I may have a condition, then does that mean that I can't get out of ignorance? So
No,
that's definitely not the case. Yeah, but for some reason it just I understand that the physical exercise does not impact, has nothing to do with the actual perceiving.
In the same way as the condition of the intellectual abilities of the mind are not a prerequisite. That's why earlier on I said, well, all the distinction, all the debates about solipsism versus realism versus idealism, all of that are for sophisticated minds, because sophisticated minds have sophisticated objections to non-duality that we have to come to grip with. But if these objections don't appear, forget about, don't even listen to what I'm saying. It's not necessary. Ultimately, just love for whatever is that which is required. Love for the truth, a love for reality, a love for consciousness, a love for everything. That's
So it's really that this love, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't depend on it is this love, this intelligence, and this beauty. So I often say there are two forms of intelligence. There is one which is the usual mind intelligence, which is the intelligence of computers. And some brains are big on that. Other brains don't have the same memory size or the same frequency on their clock. But there is another form of intelligence, which is simplicity, the ability to see simplicity. And this one is unrelated to the size of the memory or the speed of the clock, but it is only triggered by, related to the openness, the level of openness.
So then, I guess I'm trying to say now that feelings don't matter. Like you used to say so many times that I don't, you know, it's not a matter of taking into account the feeling, but it's a matter of taking of finding this, not finding, but paying attention to where does our interest come from. Is it from that place, which has nothing to do with phenomena, which is also feelings in a way.
Well, it depends what you call feelings, you know. I consider, I don't like the word feeling. Because
strong body sensations, that's what I mean. Like a sense of heaviness, let's say, and a sense of dullness, let's say. So in those moments, I guess, because that's what I'm trying to address, when these moments are present, like the storm, like the weather, I just, sometimes I don't, not all.
You want to get rid. You want to get rid of something that you feel is unpleasant, and instead of understanding that the unpleasantness of it is a good thing.
Because it takes me to the truth.
Exactly, because the unpleasantness of the thing means that you have made a mistake somewhere along the road that has led to this situation. So the mistake you make then is to take the situation which is right there, and you want to get rid of it. And you want to try to use whatever I have said or whatever you have done in the yoga, etc., to get rid of the situation which is present. Whereas the situation which is present is simply a state of the body, which the body will eventually get rid of. And the body, the fastest way for the body to get rid of it is if you don't interfere with the body. Because the body knows exactly what to do to go back to its natural state. The problem is that if you try to do something to change the situation, and if this something comes from ignorance, meaning from the belief that you are a person, in fact, you are fueling, you are perpetuating the very cause of the current situation in the body. In other words, you are postponing by fueling the contraction, fueling the cause of the current symptoms. You are only postponing the disappearance of the symptoms. You have to understand that very clearly. It's a very common mistake. We have to understand that it is, again, a relapse in ignorance. So what I was saying, instead, when you feel this condition in the body, instead of trying to get rid of this condition, try to see, because it's still fresh, what the cause of it is. And you'll see that always the cause will be that you believe to be a separate person. A separate. So now, what do you mean to be a separate person? What it means is to be either something else than awareness, of which awareness depends, like a body, or believe to be awareness, but still believe that this awareness is dependent upon something else, like a body. You see, these are the two apparently different, but not really, not substantially different beliefs that trigger down the road this condition of the body that is unpleasant. So what I am telling you is this: don't worry about the unpleasantness of it. The unpleasantness of it is perfectly proper or appropriate. It's normal. It is just telling you you have made a mistake somewhere. Go back to it. Go back to the original sin. That's the real meaning of the original sin, the original mistake. Always, and it's always the same. It is always, and I repeat it, the original sin is either the belief that I, whatever I call I, is something else than awareness, such a thing as a body, or such a thing as a mind, always something perceived or potentially perceived. Or the belief that although I know that I am awareness, that this awareness I know to be is dependent upon a body or a mind, which is something perceived. So this is the original sin. Go back to it, investigate the truth of this belief. Discover there is no evidence. Discover again and again there is no evidence. Because if you relapsed into this belief, at that moment it was because you believed that there was some evidence, which requires for you to go back to this place, to go back to the place where you have sinned, right? And rectify the mistake you have made.
Yes, it's always the same, Francis. Always the same. I get it.
Yeah, but I give you, no, it's not because I give you different paths.
Yeah, exactly.
I give you, because the problem, because otherwise you wouldn't ask this question. If you knew how to deal with the situation, you wouldn't ask the question, how do I deal with that, right?
Exactly. Exactly that's what I was gonna say, that you always say the same thing but so differently that I feel I hear it for the first time every time. So thank you for your patience, Francis. Thank you.
Hi, Francis.
Happy Rose.
So ultimately, then all perceptions are neutral because awareing gives its neutrality to everything that's being perceived. Will that be true?
In relation to awareness, it's true. In relation to other perception, it's not true because there are such a thing as interactions between perceptions.
Yes, I agree. Perceptions such as bodily sensations, thoughts that, say, a visual perception brings to you. Yes.
Yeah. And so a thought will interact with the body will with the bodily sensation. A bodily sensation will interact with the thought. So there is a full gamut of interactions, and in that sense, there is no independence among those. However, awareness is absolutely independent from all perceptions.
And unaffected. And that's what I meant by the neutrality.
Independent means non-affected.
Yes.
And independent means also not interacting. Also, the same thing. Not interacting is my.
Oh, I like that more. I like that more actually. Not interacting.
That uses this term, right? But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, amazing. And then the other question, if I may have, is it relates to this the sensation of the body and exercise and movement. The only control, apparent control there is over the body is the control of the skeletal muscles. Right. Nothing else in this body is being controlled or apparent control by anything. So the decision to initiate a movement, say to walk from point A to point B, I don't see that decision even being made. How can I say that? I don't know where the decision is made. It's not made.
Yeah. We know from Libet experiments that the build-up.
I don't know who that is, so I'm sorry.
the build-up that precedes the firing of a neuron, right, can be measured before there is a conscious decision to, I mean, it's not my field of expertise at all, so I may be
No,
very
I
wrong
know
when
what
I
you're
say
referring
that.
to. No, yes, I know what you're referring to. That the subject doesn't become conscious of its decision
In other
until.
words, in the sense, the body has decided before.
That's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say, but in a different way. But so that this, even the decisions that are being made at a low, at the body level is not a is not it. How can I put this? It's not an awareness sort of a function, if you will. I don't know if that makes sense. It just
Yeah, yes,
happens.
we could say in a sense that the brain generates thoughts in the same way as the pancreas or the liver generates whatever
Generates
bile
hormone.
or some
Yeah,
hormones, right?
yeah.
And
So how can one even think about being associated with this body?
it's amazing because then we go back. There is only one reality, which is
Right,
the reality
exactly.
of the whole, and that this notion of a separate person is completely bogus.
Bogus. Yeah.
But our experience of awareness precisely is the one who decides. It's the one who thinks, right?
Yes, without a
It's the
doubt.
one who thinks. So therefore, the one who thinks, who perceives, and is only this universal reality.
Reality.
Even from this realist and almost materialist vantage point,
Mm-hmm.
we are very consistent.
Mm-hmm.
We have to agree that the reality that thinks, the reality that perceives, is the universal reality.
Yes.
And therefore, to say, as is commonly said, that awareness is an emergent property from a living organism of, let's say, for an aggregate of particles, when this aggregate of particles acquires a certain level of complexity associated with a very low level of entropy, let's say, let's put it away, that then gradually awareness emerges. What emerges in that case is perhaps mind, right?
Yes.
But the reality of mind, the reality that perceives, is irreducible.
Mm-hmm.
Irreducible to a local biosystem or to a local physical system, because it's all one single reality.
Yes, indeed. Beautiful. Thank you.
So I have no qualm with neuroscience when they say awareness is an emergent consciousness, is an emergent property from the brain or from the body, depending on the versions of it. It's just, we have to be clear that in this case, what we talk about is not the reality of what we are.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yes.
We are talking about something else, something
Different.
that
Yeah.
emerges.
Yes. And goes away. Yes. Totally understand that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that for you, Pirus. I was just.
Hello.
Yes. Yes,
Francis,
Alexios.
yes.
Yes.
If the reality which perceives is also the reality that creates, what do you mean saying that it does not interact?
It's not on the same level. This form of creation is not an interaction. Because for an interaction to take place, we need duality. We need at least two interacting systems.
I see this. So there is no interaction.
You see, it's like, if we have waves in the ocean, we have a wave moving this way, right? And then we have a boat or ship in the ocean. And this ship in turn disturbs the surface of the ocean and creates other waves. And then the waves created by the ship will interact with the other waves and this interaction will create perhaps new wavelets and a new system of wave when they reach each other. You understand me? But
Yes.
they are all the ocean. They are all the same reality. We cannot say, can we say that the ocean interacts with the waves?
No.
No, the waves within the ocean interact with each other.
Ah.
You see, and actually this image I give is kind of, in a simplified view, the modern view of the world by quantum theory. You know, we don't have particles really, matter, whatever we see, particles, they are in fact waves. And they are the ways, fields, we say, the way these fields oscillate, and each type of particle corresponds to one type of waves, if you will, and the interaction between two particles, which is a basic interaction, right? That's a fundamental type of interaction, corresponds to what happens when two waves interact with each other. And as you see, they can give birth to other waves in the same way as interacting particles can give birth to other particles. And everything we see in this universe is made of those particles, meaning somehow that the best current view of physics is that it's all waves, right? Of this kind.
Okay.
But the reality doesn't interact any more than the ocean interacts with the waves. The waves are part of the ocean. We could say that the ocean can potentially exhibit all kinds of waves, potentially, and that at every moment there is one of these potentialities that is actualized, and that's it. That's what we have now.
Mhm. Yes, yes, I see how they interact with each other, but not the essence is what makes them. It doesn't interact.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Francis, can I go on? I want one more
Please.
thing. In Eternity Now,
In what?
you mentioned in Eternity Now, your book,
Mhm.
you mentioned that at some point we understand that we are that glimpse. And I'm thinking of this a lot, but I would love to hear something from you also.
What I mean, we first have to understand that awareness is real. By what I call by awareness is the fact of perceiving.
Excuse me, what you call awareness is
The fact of perceiving.
Uh-huh.
And we understand also that perceiving is the same as the experience that there is something rather than nothing. And we understand also that what we call I is whatever it is that perceives, because we say I perceive, I feel, I think, I understand, right?
Yes.
So since we know that perceiving is real from direct experience, and we say I am the one who perceives, right? Or I am perceiving, our real I must be this perceiving. Because whatever we perceive, the objects we perceive, we cannot be certain of the reality of that which we perceive. Because when we dream, it seems real, but when we wake up, it wasn't. And also, during the waking state, we can very clearly understand that if the awareness that perceives the world was not real, the world couldn't be real that we perceive. Something which is not real cannot perceive reality. So
In this I have a little problem. I cannot grab it for some reason.
that which perceives has to be at least as real as that which it perceives.
Yes.
Okay. Let's assume in your dream, you talk to someone. In the dream, you have this conversation. with this person, let's call it John. And in the dream, you are convinced that John perceives your words because he understands you. You are having this dialogue, and therefore you are absolutely convinced in your dream that John perceives your words. What happens when you wake up?
Yes, I was the only one.
Are you still perceived? Are you still convinced that John was perceiving your words?
No.
No. Why? Because you discover that John was an illusion. And that therefore, that something which is an illusion cannot perceive really anything. Right?
Yes.
Therefore, if you who are perceiving this world that people believe to be real, if you were not as real as the world, how could you be so certain that the world is real?
Yes.
Right? That which perceives has to be at least as real as that which it perceives. It may be more real as evidenced during the dream.
Yes.
But it is at least as real as that which it perceives. An illusion cannot perceive reality.
So, Francis, what stops reality from total, absolute understanding? Is just its freedom, right?
What stops reality from what?
I mean,
What's your question? What's your question?
my question is, why you can understand some things and I cannot understand them, for example. It's not clear. I can understand it. I can understand this about relative understandings, but about absolute understanding, it's a little bit difficult to 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 see how in some cases reality seems to understand, in some other seems not to understand. You see where I'm going? It's not that clear.
But it's true also, it's not specific to noumenal understanding. It's true also of phenomenal understanding.
Yes. Yes.
Because
Sure.
understanding is a transition from the thought to the meaning. For instance, It's not the only form of understanding, but it's a transition from the thought to the meaning of the thought. This transition may happen or may not happen. So if we look at ordinary understanding, there might be many reasons why this understanding doesn't happen. But usually, there are two main obstacles for ordinary understanding. One is a limitation of the physical ability, if you will, of the mind, which is the limitation of the computer. The computer is not powerful enough to comprehend the problem. To comprehend means to take together. And to understand means to take together and to reduce it to that which stands under the background of understanding. So in the case of ordinary understanding, such as mathematics or whatever, why don't I understand this? Hey, perhaps because it's too complicated for my old mind to comprehend, to take all of that information together. In the case of noumenal understanding, the comprehension limitations due to the limitations of the mind don't play a role. Now, I go back to the ordinary understanding. The second obstacle to ordinary understanding is lack of openness. It means that we want to go along the old days out of habit. And although the mind is very powerful and very able to comprehend a lot of things, the mind is kind of lazy and is very reluctant to consider other possibilities. A lot of very smart physicists, when Einstein came up with the special theory of relativity, didn't like it because they were used to their old ways. They were very smart. But because physicists tend scientists to be open, they are not like politicians or lawyers, or they are more open, they quickly understood that Einstein was offering a breakthrough in physics. So we have to be open-minded, meaning to set aside what we believe to be true, to envision new possibilities. So that's this basic openness, which is a prerequisite for ordinary understanding, but which also a prerequisite and the only prerequisite for noumenal understanding. The size of the brain doesn't matter. The ability, the performance of the computer doesn't matter, but the level of openness does matter. And the openness is something very simple. It's about not knowing. That which prevents me from being open is that which I know for certain, that which I hold on to. My physical theory, my religion, my political affiliation, all of that stuff, my principles, my societal guiding principle, my morality inherited from all of that keeps me in the box. So this willingness to revisit everything, to be all completely open, and to make sure not to be attached to any beliefs. So in a sense, that's a scientific approach. It's a form of humility in front of the facts. And the willingness to revise any model we have of reality if new facts come up that falsify the previous model. So it's a little bit the same here. Just that the set of facts is not limited to the phenomenal facts, but includes a different set of facts, which are the noumenal facts. And noumenal facts are facts such as truth or intelligence, beauty, love, happiness, inner peace. So these are the awareness, reality, there is something rather than nothing. Those are the facts we deal with, the noumenal facts.
Thank you very much.
Francis, hi.
Yes, hi Judith.
Hi. When you say just as you did then that illusion cannot perceive reality, is that effectively the same as saying mind cannot access awareness?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
Hi, Francis.
Yes.
I just feel like I wanted to share something with you that happened to me recently. So it's not so much a question, just wanted to share. It kind of felt like.
Go ahead, Scott.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you not hear me?
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I can.
Oh, okay. You know, I love contemplating the truth, but it felt like, you know, the rubber really hit the road for me this weekend, and I just kind of wanted to share that. You know, it's much easier for me to feel love to the mouse stuck in the trap than it is towards my mother. You know, it's there's a difficulty there, you know, when I speak with her, and it's just been years of kind of closing my heart, you know, and it was a weird set of circumstances led me to invite her to a online meditation retreat that we did together this weekend. And I thought I was helping her, but you know how the universe actually constructed these events where I saw that I was really helping myself, you know, because it enabled me to open my heart to her. And we had a very nice follow-up conversation after the retreat. It wasn't so much about the content, but I felt that there was an openness and a connection of our shared being, like for the first time in, you know, forever, you know. And it just felt like, you know, kind of like I'm very comfortable with the concepts and the path of intelligence, but I always felt like the beauty and the love parts of this journey were lacking, you know, and I could just feel that everything just kind of shifted a bit for me, you know, with this, and I don't know, that was it. I just felt like sharing that. That's the end, but it was just the surprise of the whole thing, and how it was kind of a you know, an unselfish act inviting my mom to this retreat, but you know, it was me that was the real recipient of the gift, you know. That's really it, Francis. I just felt like just sharing that because I heard a lot of things today that really resonated, and just felt like the rubber hit the road, you know, in a way that is beyond the concepts.
Yeah, my comment would be that, you know, with our parents, we are almost, as I often say, they are the ones who know best how to push our buttons. But Scott, you're such a nice man that such a nice man couldn't have been really raised by a not nice woman. So I think that I'm glad that you find the path to the heart with your mother. It's beautiful.
Thanks, Francis.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, Francis.
Thank you, Francis.
you.
Thank you, Francis.